2. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks so much for being with us. I'm Joy Lim Nakrin, joined by our regular guest attorney, Jamara Edward Shipp. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so, one of the major cases that we've been following, of course, gavel to gavel, if we ever hear the gavel on the other side, is the YSL trial. It is on recess this week. But, the court is using this time to get some motions hearings done. And there are a couple of hearings that are being considered by Judge Earl Glanville this week. So, first of all, I should say that yesterday, Young Thug's attorneys filed another motion for mistrial, and this time also asked Fulton County's lead prosecutor to be disqualified from the case. And in addition to this, there's another motion being heard to basically limit the number of witnesses that the prosecution can call, which, right now it looks to be 400, and I guess that the motion calls for it to be reduced down to maybe 200 or so, because this trial has gone on historically long, and we're just getting started.
That's correct. That's correct.
So what do you think of these motions? Are any of these surprising to you?
The first motion is not surprising from a standpoint of being an attorney, but it is something that wasn't anticipated by, I don't believe, anyone from either side until the testimony that was garnered last Friday. So what we have is a witness who is being treated as a hostile witness, and the lead prosecutor is asking this witness questions, starting off with, isn't it true that you XYZ? And she's speaking about this while she's talking about what the witness said to her, the lead prosecutor at the time. So there is a bevy of cases that says that a prosecutor cannot insert themselves into a case as a witness. And additionally, there are model rules of professional conduct that also say the same. So what the defense attorneys in this case have done is pointed out those cases, pointed out those rules, and said, hey, this lead prosecutor is in violation of these rules. This goes against case law for the United States Supreme Court as well as the Georgia Supreme Court, and therefore this lead prosecutor should either be removed, disqualified from this case, or a mistrial should be granted. So, yeah, that's quite surprising.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it definitely is not something that we typically see. But, I couldn't help but wonder if what happened with Miss Willis in the Trump investigation had any influence on this whatsoever. I mean, because, these things don't happen in a vacuum. I almost wondered if the defense attorneys thought, that's a really good idea, what they did there, trying to disqualify Miss Willis from the case. Was there any do you think that there was any sort of influence in that way?
I don't think that there would be any influence, and the reason being is because of this. In the Fonnie Willis case, there was a allegation of her acting improper, doing the wrong things, collecting money, basically getting a chance to have a double dip, get a salary from working the case as well as get benefits from somebody that she hired. In this particular instance, the defense attorneys are saying, hey, we're in the middle of trial right now. There is no way that we can cross-examine the lead prosecutor because she is the lead prosecutor on the case. However, we have to cross-examine the lead prosecutor because she is now a witness in the case because she has testified to what this other witness said to her. So therefore, she has inserted herself into the case, and the way that you cure that is either for the prosecutor to be disqualified or a mistrial to be granted. And that's exactly what the motion says.
All right, yeah, fair point. Okay, so what about this motion to limit the number of witnesses? So I guess the proposed witness list was over 700, and according to the motion, now they have a list of 400 witnesses that they intend to present. So do you think that it's likely that the defense is going to be successful in getting them to whittle down that witness list?
Well, I think if the defense can make the argument that a lot of these witnesses are what is known as cumulative, they're just saying the same thing over and over again, then I think they'll be successful. I mean, we have to be honest with ourselves. This has been one of the longest trials in Fulton County, the state of Georgia, so we have to be mindful of that. And again, we have to look at a lot of these jurors are being taken away from their families, their homes. They've had to sequester themselves from news media. All of these things play into that. So the defense is asking, hey, let's whittle this down. We don't have to have 700, 400. We don't need all those witnesses to try and prove what you say. If the indictment is solid, if what you say is solid, then you don't need that many witnesses to just come in and repeat the same thing over and over again. These defendants are still being incarcerated. Basically, you're just prolonging the trial, prejudicing them by keeping them in jail, and that's not a good thing for any of the parties involved.
Okay, yeah, it's a fair point. I also want to ask you about an additional ruling, and yeah, I think you and I talked about when the Georgia Supreme Court overturned the conviction of a man who, basically the jury had been shown a rap music video of this man who was ultimately convicted of murder, and this video had been filmed before the actual murder, and apparently he was waving around a gun in it. Did you and I
Correct.
discuss that?
Yes,
yeah,
we did.
I believe we
We
did
did.
discuss that together here on Atlanta News First Plus. So that is something that actually the defense team has brought before Judge Ural Glanville again today, and this is the case of Morgan Baker, and his conviction was overturned. So I'm wondering if, we were just speculating when we talked about it, like,
We were.
weeks ago, maybe even months ago at this point, that
Yes.
maybe it could impact YSL. Well, now it is impacting YSL.
Right. So Baker v. State was a case that came out of Warner Robins, Georgia, Houston County. And in that, the prosecutors introduced evidence of a defendant holding a gun in a music video, saying that this was how they were able to identify the defendant. The Georgia Supreme Court came back, said that the conviction should be overturned because showing that video did nothing to further the interest of just trying to find out information. It was more of a prejudicial type thing to kind of get the jury to believe, hey, this is a dangerous guy. So what the defendants have done in this particular motion is brought up Baker v. State and said, hey, the lyrics that you are trying to add into this trial, the lyrics that you are trying to admit into this trial, they're going to do nothing but be prejudicial towards the defendants. And I think that's a great argument for them to make because, again, these guys do operate a record label, but in the same instance, you can't say, well, their lyrics say they do all these bad things when it's already been established that, hey, sometimes you have to be blusterful or have a lot of bluster to kind of advance your record sales. So, again, I think it's a great motion, and maybe they'll be successful on this one.
Yeah, I mean, that would definitely be interesting to see. So Mr. Brian Steele, the attorney for Jeffrey Williams, a.k.a. Young Thug, has actually asked Mr. Glanville, the judge, to recuse himself twice, and has also moved again twice for a mistrial.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about him asking the judge to recuse himself 2 different times? Do you think that's a smart move?
I think it's a great move because one thing you have to remember is if these guys are convicted, this is going to go up on appeal. And in order to have a great appeal, you have to do what is known as building the record. That means you have to make the right objections. You have to make timely objections. So by asking for this mistrial twice, he's showing that, hey, I'm aware of this. There are some things that are wrong with how this is being conducted, and therefore we have to bring it up. We have to ask for a mistrial. Now, will it be granted? That's up for debate. It's kind of far along in the trial, and I believe that there is case law that says, you can't get a judge to recuse themselves during the middle of a trial. But again, he's building the record for if this does go up on appeal, if these guys are convicted.
Yeah, but don't you think that's not really going to make the judge happy? I mean, he's asked the judge to recuse himself twice. Wouldn't that kind of maybe annoy Mr. Judge Glanville?
So the great thing about being a defense attorney is you're not worried about pleasing the judge. You're not even worried about pleasing the prosecution. All you're looking for is to get justice for your client. And sometimes you are going to, upset the judge or upset the prosecution. I think the saying is sometimes you have to break a few eggs to make an omelet. So therefore, it's not necessarily about whether or not he keeps the judge happy, because keeping the judge happy isn't going to necessarily get his client justice.
Well, that is a fair point. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And Jamara Edward Shipp is our guest attorney joining us right now. So, if people want, I know that people were impressed by your legal analysis. If they want to hire you, what kind of cases do you take, and how do they reach you?
So I take on personal injury. I take on criminal defense. I do a little bit of business litigation. I'm a litigator by heart. So, if you need to reach out to me, Instagram, letter J, SHIPPLAW, J Shipp Law. Facebook, Jamara Shipp, and you can go to jshipplaw.com.
All right, thank you so much, Jamara Edward Shipp, joining us live here on Atlanta News First Plus. I'm just trying to pull up our website so I can show everyone. Well, yes, there are severe storms moving in tonight. I was
The
actually
Mighty
gonna show you our
Moms,
continuous
the
coverage
one-trip
of
grocery
the
champs,
YSL
and the
trial, but,
microwave
you
master
just look
chef.
under the news tab, and you'll be able to find that. But yes, also what you need to know about the First Alert weather day and the storms happening tonight, you can get that by downloading our free Atlanta News First mobile news app. Thank you for joining us.